Evening, everyone. Welcome to the Governance and Priorities Committee meeting of Monday, October 7th that I'm calling to order at 5 p.m. So we have an agenda in front of us. Are there any additions or deletions?
I do have an addition, please, your worship, under closed session, item number 4. It is a letter of support request and for section 24 advice from officials.
Okay, does anybody have any objection to adding that? Okay, and the one other thing, I understand that one of our presenting groups has another presentation to do this evening at a town down the road, so might move them around the agenda. So after that, would someone move the agenda as amended? Mr. Good, so moves. All those in favor? Opposed, it is carried. Thank you. We have the minutes of September 3rd, Governance and Priorities meeting. Everybody's had a chance to review those. Were there any edits to
I'll move those minutes.
Okay,
Is that a reasonable thing?
sure.
Move that council adopt the minutes of the September 3rd, 2024 Governance and Priorities Committee meeting as presented.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? I took a session on effective meetings. I'm supposed to ask opposed even if it doesn't look like anybody does. In case you want to change your mind, apparently. So that's why I'm doing that. It was carried. Comments from the public. Maybe they're going to be forthcoming at presentation time. Okay, so now we have the presentation section of our agenda. And it's my understanding that the Mascaba Medical Center Chair of the Board, Ken Drysdale, and Community and Government Relations Chair, Wayne Drysdale, would like to present. So this will give us all an opportunity on a new thing that's happening over Grand Prairie for the medical, as I understand it. So if you put the mic on, just press the button and keep it red, and you're going to be live.
Sure.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor and Council, for making time for us this evening. See, you have quite a few presenters, so we'll go as quick as we can. Yeah, we're trying to get to every town, city, and municipality in the Northwest. Basically Slave Lake, Red Earth, up to Mackenzie, over to the west border, and as far south as Grand Cache, to explain what we're doing in Grand Prairie in partnership with Mascaba Medical Center, the U of A University, and Northwest Polytechnic in Grand Prairie, expansion of med schools in the Northwest, which was a mandate of the premier's when she got elected in November of 2022, and then again last July when she put out another mandate for University of Alberta to work with Northwest Polytechnic and Grand Prairie to expand teaching family physicians into the Northwest. So I'll start and go through it as quick as I can. Who we are, we're trying to improve the quality of life and outcomes in Northwestern Alberta. Mascaba is an innovative Alberta-based not-for-profit registered charity in Ottawa, committed to accelerating the process and improving access to medical specialists and family physicians. Any surplus funds from our tenancy within our facility will be reinvested back into research and education in the medical field. Mascaba is a Cree word meaning bear. In Cree culture, the bear is an important symbol representing good medicine and powerful spirit used in traditional ceremony. The Peace Region is one of the best places to live in the world, work, and raise a family. That's why we're all here and continuing with generations of families. Yet our residents have poor health outcomes, our healthcare system is bogged down, and our healthcare professionals are tired and frustrated, as we all hear on a daily basis, and that's just plain wrong. Led by residents, Peace Country resident, Masco is brought together by a shared common goal of improving health outcomes for northern communities. Here's our board, we made up starting in 2018. We've actually been on this program since 2017, and we've gone through 3 premiers, 4 health ministers, and several deputy ministers within the province in Alberta Health Services and Alberta Health. We on the board, we've all had health issues within our families or our neighbors, similar to everybody in this room. Nobody's untouched by health outcomes. Our board is made up of a fair wide variety of professionals, from commercial builders to healthcare professionals to lawyers to insurance people and other government leaders. Wayne joined me here today, and most of you may know of him from his former experience in the government. So he's a good leader to know what doors to knock on. There will be no fees charged to patients. It will be paid for as it currently is with the Alberta Healthcare Insurance Program. And the clinic will be funded through an innovative ARP arrangement with the government of Alberta. And specialists will be salaried based on 5 days a week, 8 to 5. Now, what I'm first talking to you here about is the specialist diagnostic clinic that we're talking about building and having on the 3rd floor of our facility. And as I go along here, I'll talk more about the facility and the partnership. So we're trying to change health outcomes in northwestern Alberta. 1993, get in and see a specialist within a month. 2023, you're looking at 17 to 18 weeks. And if you go out to the city, if you have to travel to Edmonton, Calgary, Red Deer to see a specialist, and you're misdiagnosed, you could be another 17 to 18 weeks to see another specialist. Quite often it takes 1.5 to 2 years. And when they get the diagnosis, quite often the word is, if we'd only caught it sooner, the outcome would be different. Our access to specialists in rural Alberta is 0.06 for every 1,000 residents. In urban areas, it's 0.29, 5 to 1 more advantage in urban areas. The new innovative not-for-profit model will help the Peace region in 3 ways: improve access to specialists and quality of care for patients in the region. Not only help retain, but also attract doctors to the area. No overall increase in healthcare costs to the healthcare system. Will actually reduce the long-term costs by intervention of the disease sooner. Our goal is to get patients up to a treatment plan within 10 days of walking through the center doors. Masco vows to ensure patients don't get lost or stuck in the referral cycle. And this process philosophy will save time and money for patients and caregivers related to taking time away from work, travel, and accommodation. So once we get the program up and running and working efficiently, residents of the Peace Country will no longer have to travel a 4-lane or in that Edmonton to or Calgary, Red Deer, and take the time away. Here's currently the system. You go to the family physician if it's something beyond his training and the symptoms persist, he forwards you to a specialist and go around the cycle. And if it's misdiagnosed, you go back into the cycle. Here's our model plan for efficiency and coming to a treatment plan and collaboration with specialists in the region. Our partnership with University of Alberta through the innovative technology of virtual conferencing, the Masco clinic specialists will collaborate with panels of specialists from across the province and Western Canada, complicated conditions. Through referrals and a collaborative team approach, physicians will work closely with the Masco Center to refer their challenging cases and get timely access to diagnosis. When we started on our program about 3-4 years ago, a lot of the PCN doctors and local family physicians felt we were trying to steal their patients and their income. That wasn't the case. We're trying to be there as an extra backup and supportive system for them in their daily lives. Working together with physicians, the Masco Center will be finding ways to improve the case workload and hours worked for medical staff and improve quality of life. Now I move on to more what our facility is about. We put that picture up on the wall, which I might highlight at times, just so you know exactly where we're talking. Here's our facility. We're well on our way with engineering design and stuff to do with it. It's 3 floors, it'll be 100,000 square feet with a parkade underneath. And it'll be positioned right across from the, just if you've been to the new Grand Prairie Hospital, they have a parkade. And it'll be just to the south of the parkade on 2 acres of green lot that's there today. And just to the west of the Emerge. And hopefully in the future, we have a pedway going across to the current pedway. So any staff within the Masco Center will be able to transverse indoors. It's just gonna be 3 floors above ground. The bottom floor will be 22,000 square feet for the teaching clinic for the U of A. The second floor will be retail, which would be a restaurant, a pharmacy, a medical supply business, daycare for the nursing staff or the staff from the hospital, and also the NWP students in their research and health center. The third floor will be the Masco Medical Specialist Clinic. We currently have it designed for 14 offices, 10 exam rooms, and a day surgery room, and then a lounge for the doctors to get away for a bit. The first floor being 22,000 square feet, they'll have 20 resident students in there a year, 10 in their first year, 10 in their second, and graduating 10 out into the Northwest communities per year. Each graduated family physician will have the training to see between 900 to 1,100 patients per year. So if you take that and by 10 and 75% of them stay in the region, what's going on here? If you take 7 times 900, that's another 5,600 patients they can look after. I lost it. Oh.
Got a mind of its own today.
The idea with the school is to recruit rural, train rural, and retain rural. We'll be a key partner in training for the medical program. We'll house a teaching clinic. The clinic will have expanded hours of practice, including evenings and weekends, to reduce pressures on the emergency department by 50%. Currently, that's what attends the emergency department in Grand Prairie. Is about 50% of them are walk-ins that should be going to see a family physician. So this will free up the staff within the Emerge to take on the emergency cases that the facility was set up for. The focus will be on the NAMP program. The Northern Alberta Medical Program is to recruit students from rural Alberta and BC, train them in Grand Prairie and northern communities, and then they will stay in practice in the northern communities. The model that's showing that is the one in Prince George University. When they moved them up from Vancouver, that 75% of the graduates practiced in rural and regional communities. So if you can envision a student from the Peace River, town of Peace River, or the surrounding area, Grimshaw, coming into Grand Prairie and coming back within 10 years as a family physician, it keeps them in touch with their community, because on weekends and long weekends, they get a chance to go home and stay connected with family, and will usually return to that region they're close to it. So there are 3 components of training to become a doctor. First, they obtain a bachelor's degree. Can be done at NWP or the U of A, and then they come to Grand Prairie NWP for their undergrad medical education. And basically training to obtain a medical degree is 4 years, enrolling up to 30 medical students per year at NWP starting in 2025. So by the time all 4 years are full, there'll be 120 med students at NWP, and 10 of those a year will come over to the residency training in our clinic to become a family physician within 2 years. By 2028, 2030, the U of A plans on training right up to internal medicine and surgery, operating, and that'll require an additional 4 to 5. So like I say, in 10 years, between the bachelor degree, the undergrad, and 2-year residency, you become a family physician out of the Grand Prairie teaching clinic and return to the rural area, or stay for another 4 to 5 and become internal medicine. It's a tremendous opportunity for now medical students to work closely with the University of Alberta Faculty of Family Medicine and Research, in collaboration with the Masco Medical Center and partners on training and employment opportunities for NAP graduates and keep the talent in the region. Have an NWP, the University of Alberta and Masco Specialist Clinic in northern rural communities will truly benefit us all. Currently, our partnerships over the last 3 years have been the City of Grand Prairie, the County of Grand Prairie, and the MD of Greenview. First started out with the 3 of them helping us with a business plan in 2021 to Minister Chandro. And then secondly, last fall, when we realized that we had a chance to partner with the U of A, and they were looking for space in Grand Prairie, and we realized it had to be in front of the hospital. We asked the 3 municipalities to help us with engineering design. And that was a 1.5 million. And then most recently, they're putting some funding forward so we can get shovel in the ground either this winter or first thing in the spring to have this facility open by the end of 2026. And the Clear Hills County most recently gave us a 50,000 in grant money to be spent once we have shovel in the ground on the facility. And AltaGas just came forward the other day with 30,000 to go towards the facility. Sonoma Gas the same. Support the Girls Foundation, Grand Prairie the same. The board members that were on the list in the previous slide, we put in personally 500,000 of the funds to date on this program over the last 5-6 years, and over 27,000 volunteer hours and 65,000 kilometers driven. To date, our design is 99% completed. The long-term tenant agreements in progress with the Alberta Health, U of A and ourselves. 60-year land agreement with NWP, 40-year plus 2 renewals is near completion. Just waiting for some final stuff to come back from Alberta Infrastructure. Our contractor tender documents, we were hoping to have them done by September, but that slipped by us, and they're in progress here now to be done by the 21st of October. Tenant EOIs, we sent them out over a month and a half ago. We've had 4 or 5 applicants for each space on the 2nd floor, and we're starting interviews next week. Groundbreaking ceremony, we're still hoping to do that in October. Just to get everybody, once we have the signatures with the U of A and NWP in place, we'll be doing that immediately. Capital fund raising is in progress. Indigenous consultations ongoing. In our facility, we have several wall display areas that we want to see some Indigenous art and stuff throughout the community, from Duncan and Sturgeon and Horse Lake. Currently, our budget, and we feel we can hold it at 35 million for the project. And when we first brought that up, it seemed like a huge number, but once you looked at the total residents in the Northwest Alberta, every man, woman, and child, it's about 210,000. Works out to about $170 per resident, which really is a pretty minor investment in every person that lives in the Northwest. Benefit to the Peace Region in 5 ways: not only help retain, but also attract doctors, improve quality of care to patients, employee retention for employers in the region due to improved access to healthcare, no over increased costs, and the investment back into research education. We use this census from the town of Peace River from 2021 and just a sample of 170. We're not here to ask for that. It's just the number that we're using across the board. And whatever, we don't know anyone's financial situation or possibilities over the next few fiscal budget years, but we just throw it out there so you have an idea. So that's our building opening in 2026, hopefully before the end of the year, and be able to start training family physicians to the north. Any questions?
Looks like an exciting project for sure. And $1 million, you hear $1 million thrown around here quite often. Deputy Mayor.
When you say northwestern, how far north do you go to the border? Like, what communities do you encompass?
Yeah, right up to Northwest Territories. Yeah, we're going up to present High Level and Rainbow Lake and all of them too.
And this 200 and how many here residents, that's the total residents from up there, all, the whole thing?
That's correct. If you include Northeast BC, it's 300.
Okay, thank you.
And we have presented to Northeast BC.
Good to know. Mr. Good?
So once it's built and operational, what are your projected operating costs and how much do you think it'll be able to generate itself? I mean, I think that sense running as a nonprofit society, am I correct on that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so what would, just at a rough estimate, what do you consider your operational costs and running costs and what do you foresee a deficit every year, like a continual money raising thing or donations, et cetera, going on and on, or a per capita thing going on and on after that? A couple of questions.
Yeah, it'll be all three. Currently what we're forecasting is if we had 10.5 million debt to pay off at the bank, between the tenancy and the first, second and third floor, we profit about 350,000 after all the operating costs of the facility and everything. Now, if we can get that down to zero, that goes up, but it will continue for decades through philanthropy and donors and stuff like that. Try and raise money. The more we can raise, the more we can get back into programs in the Northwest, and we want to put together someone from each community so they can bring the concerns of their community to the table, and we try and address them in the proper order. So.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question there?
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
Other counselors? So the general gist of it is our family doctor here in Peace River would say, Elaine, you've got this difficulty. I don't know what it is. I'll recommend you to a specialist at the, how do you say?
Massaquoi Medical Center.
Massaquoi Medical
Massaquoi,
Center. And at that point, the specialists who are working 9 to 5 or whatever it is, 8 to 5, I might be recommended to one of them and carry on the.
That's correct, yeah. And even further that, Elaine, we've talked about trying to set up satellite offices in Peace River, High Level, key centers, so people don't have to travel that far. So if we can get a specialist, general internist to live in Peace River and be our virtual go-to guy, it could save a family from traveling to Grand Prairie. If it's more serious than that, maybe they got to travel down for a couple of days for more testing and more collaborative. Just give you a quick background where a bunch of this has come from, and I'm sure people in this room have probably attended it, is we end up in Rochester, Minnesota, at the Mother Mayo Company. And that's where we learned about where all their physicians say, me and my colleagues, not here's what I want you to do, or here's where I want to send you. It's me and my colleagues looked at your file, and here's the tests we're going to do in the next 3 days. They'll see you Thursday at 2 o'clock. And when you go back to them at 2 o'clock, they say, we looked at the tests, here's what it is, go home and enjoy your grandkids, hopefully.
Yeah. So it's, I've heard of another thing like this before where you're not recommended to a specific specialist, but here's the specialist and they'll kind of take you on from there as a
That-
group.
That's right, they become the quarterback or the lead,
Mhm.
and they'll figure out in what area of the body the issue is, and then reach out to other specialists in that same disease category and get them to view only or partake in some decisions, so.
And the specialist, you obviously must have had talks with them and they're agreeable to the 8 to 5 PM kind of work at the,
Yeah, we're looking at salarying them, so that then they can work 8 till 5, 5 days a week, and then if they want to go back into the fee for service system, they can do that in evenings or weekends.
so they don't necessarily have to run a business, they just
That's correct.
have the income. Well, I shouldn't say just have the income, but yeah, okay, good. It's interesting and I'd say a challenging way of looking at medicine, especially in northwestern Alberta where it's needed. Many of us in this room have had to access a specialist at some point in time, and getting on the list, first of all, is interesting, and then the challenge of whether you're really seeing them on that day or not is also another challenge. I can see that the daycare would be a wonderful thing for staff. I know we're told in Peace River that medical staff would appreciate a daycare that opens more than whatever the 8 to 5 kind of daycare thing is, because well, it doesn't work for them.
Yeah, I should have spent a little bit more on that. The daycare is on this end of the facility,
Oh, yeah.
and it's 6,000 square feet in behind the wall, and it's 5,600 square feet. We put a cover over top the ramp down into the parkade,
Mhm.
so they have a bit of a terrace to be outside, and the fencing will be proper to keep them inside. They're hoping they'll be able to handle 80 to 100 children on a double shift, so 80 per shift, 24 hours. Wow, the plan. The restaurant's gonna be on this end, just as you come across the pedway, and then the second floor is where the pharmaceutical and full medical supply. The third floor is where the diagnostic specialists will be, and the ground floor is the teaching clinic.
Great. Any further questions, counselors? Well, thank you, Mr. Drysdale, and good luck with your next
Yeah.
presentation. And I'm sure we'll be hearing from you in the future as the progress of the project comes to be.
Yeah,
I got one job to do.
Oh, yeah.
And that's to take a picture of Ken and the council, if that's possible.
Oh, well, sure.
Put on Facebook, all of this.
Yeah, we'll be quick enough.
Yeah. Be real.
And I just have one last quick thing, is from the mail, they taught us that, through their studies, the most successful medical systems in the world are led by entrepreneurs and communities, so, not by government.
Well, there's some efficiencies that maybe are looked at a little differently, I put it that way.
And I'm a farmer and a pipeliner, I'm not a medical professional.
Okay, so council, maybe you can stand here and we'll get the two Mr. Drysdale here, if that works. And our
I
Stuart, our
can take the
communication
picture.
guy will take your picture if you'd like.
Oh,
You guys are part of the picture, aren't you?
Ken is for sure.
Oh, he's coming.
I think. You take the
Sure.
picture.
You can try to hold it here.
Oh, sure. Wayne, did you want to set this in front?
Let me take it.
Get everybody
You
behind
want me to have
you.
it, but- Squeeze in, people.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, you can see over, that's good.
Awesome.
We had this picture before.
All right, look right here. Beautiful, great work. All right, and then I'm gonna take one with this camera. Look right here. Excellent job. Beautiful, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here.
Oh, are you okay?
Yeah, you know, we're gonna whale and vote.
We don't have to write it in a second. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. So now back to the presentations in the order we have them in the agenda. So Next up, we have grants to organizations, the Peace River Curling Club, Curl for a Cause, MS Funspiel. And if you come forward and say your name clearly into the microphone and we'll go forth. But I just want to mention to all the presenters that have events going on, you should really go to our new website and click somehow in the calendar and get your event listed there as well. We hope to see a full calendar. So ladies.
Oh, is this thing on?
Yeah,
I'm just driving.
there you go.
Okay. So the first thing on your agenda, I guess, for the Peace River Curling Club is the Curl for a Cause. In 2015, we started to hold a bonspiel for MS. And since that time, we've probably averaged easily $5,000 a year. Originally, it was started at the same time that the MS Trail Ride was going on. And now that is no longer happening. So this, COVID kind of finalized it. It was already starting to weaken because our organizers were reaching senior, and the MS Society, as much as they supported us, has changed. And so we no longer have a local chapter either. But COVID basically killed the rest of the trail ride. The last time they had it, I believe, was in 2021 or 2022. And I think we had maybe 20 riders. So the bonspiel has actually become one of the largest fundraisers up here for MS, I guess second to the walk, which happens in Grand Prairie. Last year, we were able to raise, I think about $6,700, and that's based on a one-day event. It's a fun spiel, so we actually invite families to come and join us on the ice for one day only. It's just a Saturday. And it's all run by volunteers, of course, just like most of our events. Last year, I wasn't able to apply because between COVID and everything else, we didn't get around to planning early enough, but we did hold the bonspiel. We did raise, I think about $6,700. As the organizer, what I'm asking for, and Linda's kind of here to support, just because that's what we do, right, for the curling club, is basically some funds to help us with the costs. So I did submit a bit of a budget based on previous years, and I think the cost that I had, let's say the costs were about $6,000 and the income was about $10,000. So that was able to give us $4,000, I believe, in 2019, and so from there we've kind of grown. So yeah, basically on the letter that I submitted, I outlined a few of the costs, everything from small prizes for the teams all the way up to the rental of the facility and the dinner, which is significantly more than it used to be, of course. We're running probably close to $30 a plate. And with the anticipation would be to get about 20 teams, so that's 80 people curling. And last year we had about 14 teams join us. So the request is basically somewhere between $500 and $2,500, depending on the budget. I think in the past, the town has granted us $500. And we've put that either towards breakfast or towards lunch or a portion of the meal. I'm not sure. One of the things that I pulled up online is actually our impact statement from the MS Society, or MS Canada is what it's known as now. And on, I think it's page 3 or 4. It outlines the impact of 2022 at a glance. So that's the most recent numbers. Just, I guess, for numbers to put things into perspective, in 2022, the MS Society raised $44 million. Almost 6 of that went into research. New research, 35 million is in active research portfolios. The other thing they use money for is actually on that page as well. 1.2 invested in grants, 3.7 in 36 research grants to understand and halt disease progression. and 472 in research grants to prevent MS. The other thing that money goes towards is programs and services. So they provide direct assistance to people living with MS, such as support groups, rehabilitation services, and education resources. There is what they call MS navigators, which are actually staff dispersed throughout Canada, and they connect MS patients with the MS Knowledge Network, which is basically just information that's available for new patients and ongoing patients, I guess. The other thing they use the money for is advocacy for policies that benefit people with MS, such as increased funding for research and improved healthcare. And then the least amount goes towards admin costs. I did include basically that flyer from 2022, just to put things in perspective.
Okay, and this happens on,
November 23rd, it's scheduled for this year.
so I should explain to everyone that the way things happen here, the process is that we hopefully get people coming to present to the council, whatever the cause is, and then information goes away and it comes back in a briefing note to council at a upcoming meeting, and at that point, council decides the allocations as such.
Thank you. Any questions?
Councilors, any questions? Well, it's for a good cause, and certainly in our area, there's a significant population that does have MS, so I'm sure it's.
Yeah, and the hope is that we'll actually get teams again from as far away from as Slave Lake, Fairview, Manning. Any luck, high level, but we'll see.
Yeah, it'd be the year. So thank you, ladies, and I think you're also gonna be next up for, again, grassroots organization, the Peace River Curling Club Oktoberfest.
Yes, okay, so we're trying to come up with an innovative ideas to fundraise. Our headers are aging. They've been telling us for probably about 3-4 years that we need new headers, and you can't have the Freon. I mean, I'm not technical, I don't know exactly, but I just know that you can't have those headers, if they give out, you can't even make your ice. The Freon won't flow. It's the head where the Freon flows to your in the cement. So if you let those go, then it would be way more costly. Those cost about $100,000. And with the rise of like the utility bills, I mean, as you all know, it's very expensive. Our budget to run the curling club is high. We're all nonprofit, we're all volunteers. The only paid people are our ice techs, and then of course we have a janitor. But the rest, treasurer, everything else is all volunteers. And you know, the town gives us the building. We have an agreement that we don't pay rent, but it's also a very expensive building to run. So we're trying to be innovative. So we thought we'd try Oktoberfest because a community not far, McLennan, used to do it, and they would sell out every year. We chose to do it on the long weekend, hoping we'd get people with their families coming. So I think we have about 70 tickets sold. So the deadline's Wednesday. So I mean, there's still, but the people are paying, they know it's a fundraiser, so we're getting good support. So the total amount, our expenses would be about $5,800. I think we're asking for $2,000 just to help with different costs so that we do make it a fundraiser. We've teamed up with Peace River Brewing to get we have a beer will have our logo, and we've teamed up with the Legion. So we're trying to do things with the Legion as well, just to be more community minded, doing things with other groups. We partnered with them for Plaid Days in July. So that was a success. We helped them at the cornhole. So now they're sending bartenders to do the Oktoberfest. So, you know, we're trying to do collaborations with different, you know, organizations in town. So that's our request. I don't know if you guys had any other questions. It's basically just gonna be one of our big fundraisers, other than Bonspiels, of course. We always try to make money at our Bonspiels to help pay for, and of course, advertising. We always go to local businesses, we do all that kind of stuff as well. But this is something new we're trying this year.
Oh, good to try new stuff.
That's right, yeah.
In terms of, the headers, do you have some monies already set aside? or-
Well, we have a bit of money set aside, but the costs of running the building is, I'd have to ask Kate. I didn't bring the financials, but our yearly budget is about $130,000, something like that. I mean, I should have brought, Kate was supposed to come, but she couldn't come. So it was last minute, so I don't know exactly. I mean, we could send you guys, I don't know, did Shelby send the financial?
Yes.
So you guys have it, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, yeah, so like our operating cost is very high. Because it's a building that needs, a lot of electricity. I mean, it's just the way it is to keep that ice cold. It costs us a lot in electricity and utilities in general cost. That piece probably half that, if not more. Did you see it there? Did you find it there?
I have the income statement.
Yeah, because we also have projected budget, so I can send you guys that as well. I can just ask Kate to give it to me and I can get Shelby to forward it. Cause Kate Blakely's our treasurer, so she has looked at the past couple of years, and then we've got a projected budget of what it costs to run the curling club. So I don't have it with me, but I can easily
Okay.
get that from Kate.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councilors, do you have any questions at this
Sure.
time? Councilor Cameron?
Yeah, are you guys hoping to kind of like, this is the first year you run it, so I'm assuming you're like thinking long-term, we'll build this up over time to
Yes,
a bigger
yeah.
and kind of better thing, and so this
Yeah.
is really kind of a seed, a start to something you can.
Yeah,
make a
to
ring-
start something that, the other community's not doing it anymore, and it was a big success there. They always made, I don't know how much money, but they made money because the guy from the Legion used to run it. So, yeah, this is tentative. We're trying to see, could this be a possible, and at some point, moving it into the main part. Right now we can't because the ice is in, but maybe doing something before ice goes in, so we're throwing around different ideas. Another.
How many tickets do you have total for?
The capacity is 135, so we have 70 sold right now, which is not bad for a long weekend. They have till Wednesday
Okay.
to buy tickets.
Yeah, it's nice to see the collaboration. That
Mhm.
makes my heart happy. I've been trying to push
Yes.
that for years
Yes.
it's easier, especially when you have, opposite, summer versus winter activities like that.
Yes, yeah.
You can interchange a lot of
Yeah.
volunteer trading.
And
And
we
I-
also partner with Peace Sign and Graphics as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's
To make our
really good to
logos.
see.
Yeah.
Good job on that.
Any other questions, councilors? Well, thank you, ladies, and good luck with Oktoberfest and the MS as well. And
Thank you so much.
busy fall.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next up, we have the Peace River Art Club and marketing and promoting Peace River Art Club events. And gang, if you just say your names, so.
Good evening, I'm Dana Lalberty and I'm the secretary of the Peace River Art Club.
Is it red?
Nope.
There you
Now
go.
it is. I don't usually need a mic.
Yeah.
I'm Dana Lalberty and I'm the secretary of the Peace River Art Club.
Diane Ireland, a board member of the Peace River Art Club.
So what we're here to talk about is, first of all, we'd like to thank you very much for supporting us last year in our first ever annual art gala. We had over 400 people show up. We had to run out and buy extra food and drink, and it was absolutely incredible. It was way more successful than we ever thought, and it's our biggest fundraiser. And as you know from the past, we partner with local businesses, local organizations, and lots of different individuals. We had the navigators there as security, and not that there was really any need for security, but we made them carry things around and that kind of thing. This year, we're partnering with the Peace River Brewery, and they will, as people come in, they will get a voucher, and they can go to the brewery, who is staying open an extra hour that night on our second annual one. And they're going to have 10% off all food and drink, and they're gonna have a drink named after us. So that's wonderful as well. We also purchase our beer from them for the event, and so they've been really wonderful with us. So this year, what we're doing is we looked at where our needs are, and of course, like any nonprofit organization, you get funds from your memberships, from any of the fundraising efforts that you do, donations, rentals, parties, programs for the art club, that kind of thing. We've done extremely well this year. We've moved from, after 1 year being in the Art Hub, from 24 members to over 240 members. And we're one of the organizations in Peace River that serves everyone from 2-year-olds to 90-year-olds. So pretty all-inclusive, and we do things like seniors teas, and we do lots of children's programming, and we've actually been very successful in getting a couple of grants to support children's programming, so that we only have to charge $10 for most of our children's programs now, which is also really, really fortunate. So we're here tonight to talk to you about our second annual art gala. And the area that we're seeing the most need is, of course, that we need to hire. And so we have skimped and saved every penny that we have received in order to hire, and we're doing that right now. We're in the process. We've got an ad out to hire a part-time worker for the Art Hub and a communication coordinator. Those are the two areas where we're feeling the most need. The second annual art gala, what we're looking for is probably the thing that's the most expensive for us whenever we're doing any events is communications. Paying for radio ads, newspapers, printing posters, brochures, that kind of thing. There's a huge cost to that. And also, we are really feeling the need for this communications person. We have several people in our club that can do it, but they're so busy with their other areas as a treasurer or as whatever, that they don't have lots of time to put towards it. So we, because all our money is going towards saving for staffing and buying supplies and all that kind of thing, we wanted to ask in this year from you for support for marketing and promotions. So we've started with a 6-month little contract for a communication coordinator, and one of the things we're asking for in this one is for another 6 months, and it's a small amount. It's $1,800 for that. But we're also looking for support for just our whole communication, marketing, and promotions for these other costs. As you can see, the expenses for advertising, for paper costs, and to support a bit for river expenses to put on these events. So for example, we became partnered with Rotaract this year for River Days, and we did a lot on that street, and did the Battle of the Brushes, which was so successful. And we had a bunch of art vendors out, plus we had the Art Hub open, and it was really good. But we never had a budget for it, because again, we squirrel away as much money as we can for hiring. And so every time we're putting on a seniors tea the day before the gala this year, and it wasn't in this because we hadn't finalized, but the day before from 1 to 3, we're having a tea. So you have to pay for a musician a little bit, $50 or $100. You need to get supplies for the tea and whatever. So every event that we do, and we're looking at community events like the parade or like Festival of Trees, it costs you a little bit of money, and it costs money to promote it and market it. So, and to get people involved. And so that's what this proposal is about, to support us in our second annual gala, but also for promoting and marketing for the next year for all of our events and functions that we are going to be doing.
Also, I'd like to add that the Art Hub has become attraction to many people, young and old, or seniors, from not only Peace River, but the outlying region. And we've become a tourist attraction, and we would like to build on that as well with our gift shop and also with the art galleries that are becoming very popular and with a lot of artists that we've did not know that we had that many artists in our area, which are now coming forth and bringing their artwork to showcase it in our art galleries.
It's definitely been a very worthwhile addition to our community. And for the ways and means you said right now, but,
And two of the areas that we really, besides supporting artists, is the tourism, of course. And we join Mighty Peace Tourism, we attend their meetings, we go to the Peace River Chamber of Commerce, those kind of things. We make presentations to different town councils, MDs, bands, all those things are all continuing and in the works, but that's all part of the marketing thing as well. And so we're really trying to promote tourism, but we're also really encouraging employers to mention us when they're hiring, because it's an attraction for hiring. And I work for a school division, and that was always one of the things. Do you have any art? Do you have any drama? Do you have, we always have sports and different things, but so it was an attraction thing as well for hiring people. And so we really promote that piece as well.
great. Counselors, questions? Okay, so the gala occurs on October 18th.
Yes,
So there'll be the tea October 17th.
yes,
And you're essentially asking for, is it $7,800? Is that the total?
yeah.
Okay. Just clarifying. Okay, well, good luck with your events and thank you for all your work, and the initiative of the Art Hub in and of itself is a big deal for our town.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for your support. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have the North Peace Performing Arts Festival Association. And you want to come forth and say your names and go for it.
Hey, hello, everyone. My name is Audrey DeWitt. I'm a parent of former participants of the Performing Arts Festival. Our family's sponsored awards for festival for a couple of decades already now. And I've been the awards coordinator for festival for the past 5 years.
My name is Valerie Unruh, and I am the current treasurer for the North Peace Performing Arts Festival. I'm not musically inclined, but I do enjoy hearing the amazing talent that gets showcased at our festival. It is astounding to me at the vast array of abilities the people in this community have.
Our local festival association started over 30 years ago already as a venue for young musicians and performers to receive feedback from qualified adjudicators. It's one of 37 festivals across the province that belong to the Alberta Music Festival Association. And our festival sends our top competitors to the annual Alberta Provincial Festival in a variety of musical disciplines like voice, piano, and instrumental classes. And we also have bands from various schools in the region enter festival. The festival takes place over 2 weeks. So in 2025, next year, it's going to be from March 2nd to 14th. And then we have our grand concert on the Saturday following. So that will be on March 15th. We bring in typically 3 adjudicators, one that specializes in voice and speech, one for piano, and a third for band and instrumental. Usually they come from Edmonton area or further south. Our usual Peace River venues are St. James Anglican Church and Athabasca Hall, which have been wonderful locations for our festival. And our adjudicators, our band adjudicators also travel to school locations. We started taking them to Manning and Donnelly instead of making the bands come to Peace River, which is very hard for schools to do nowadays. Students can perform, they watch others perform, and then they receive verbal feedback from the adjudicator, plus a sheet that gives them written feedback. And adjudicators will often also work with students to help them with specific skills. But festival is so much more than just learning and showing musical talent. It's about creating a platform for young people to aim to do their best. And they spend many hours perfecting their music, the drama, and speech selections. They learn techniques that help them to control anxiety and tension, and they memorize, they develop the courage to stand up on an empty stage, which is not an easy thing to do. And 2 years ago, we reintroduced speech after a 15-year hiatus, and we've seen excellent uptake on this opportunity as well. So it isn't just about music, but it's also getting up, sometimes creating your own written material and then speaking in front of the group and presenting it, which has been excellent. And festival produces people who shine in all of these areas and often go on to work in professional capacity with using the skills. And sometimes it's just people in other professions who still think back on everything they learned at festival. Last year, we had 244 entries. Many were solos, but we also had groups for a total of 380 participants. So lots of young people from the region who do this. And of course, we also rely on local teachers and accompanists who become part of it. And we, as a board, put in many, many hours to pull this off. In addition to that, we also have volunteers who assist us with sessions. And if any of you would like to do that, we'd be happy to take your names. It's usually just a morning or an afternoon or an evening. And festival is open to the public for free. So anyone can come and watch any of the adjudicated sessions. And musical theater is always very popular. We run that in the evenings at Athabasca Hall. It's definitely worth taking in. And I think now I'll turn it over to our treasurer to talk about money.
Okay, we included with our application, our budget from last year. We just had a meeting last night and we approved our budget for this coming up here, and our numbers are considerably higher because in the past we have underpaid our adjudicators' travel rates. We've been trying to keep it lower than the approved government recommended rates. And unfortunately, adjudicators are just going, we are too far north. And so we've raised our rates for travel to the 70 cents a kilometer. So that dramatically increased our budget requirements as well. We have been, again, underpaying for our per diem rates. In the past, it's been $40, and we just this year raised it to 55 because the accommodations that we usually book does provide a breakfast meal of sorts. So we recognize we're under the recommended government rates on that. But looking at this year's budget numbers, we're running our proposed income versus our proposed expenses. We would end up $600 in the hole. So last year, the town of Peace River did grant us $500, and we were truly grateful for that because some of our expenses, we have been trying to work closely with the schools, set up sessions in the schools so that the students wouldn't have to be transported or leave the school grounds. But we are finding that the cost of renting those facilities is too high compared to the number of participants we've been getting. So this year we are just sticking with St. James Cathedral and the Athabasca Hall, which we are truly grateful to have the opportunity to book because we know it is a very popular venue and we always seem to come to the table late on our dates. So we're truly grateful for that. We have applied for the up to $2,500. Again, it does help offset some of our additional costs for our adjudicators. and for our facility rental. We're grateful the Basca Hall is currently being rented or has in the past been rented to us at the youth rate because the majority of participants are youth. We have a few participants that are 18 and above, but the majority of those 300 plus are youth from the school systems. This year as well, the town of Manning, who has in the past donated to us via grants, they've actually requested 2 days for our adjudicator to go up to Manning because they have so many interested students. Now that is going to cost us extra money that we didn't have even in this budget. It's not in there because we're not going to drive the adjudicator up to Manning and say, okay, now we're going to drive you back to Peace River and drive you back to Manning. So we're going to have extra accommodation costs. And we're also having a full day of speech entries in Manning. So we'll be doing some extra traveling there as well. Usually with our band adjudicator, on their way home, we tell them, let's stop in Donnelly. And then we do our band adjudication in Donnelly. And that has worked out very well for us. But again, some of our adjudicators, we've had them come from as far as Calgary, and our budget doesn't reflect those extra kilometers. So, and right now, we are looking for a band adjudicator. So we are hoping to sweeten the pot as much as possible so that we will have people who are coming, because the band adjudicator is the one that would be going to Manning as well as stopping in Donnelly.
Thank you. So you definitely cover a wide area and many students. I know the volunteers are usually quite happy and quite interested in whatever is being performed in front of them too, even if they're not musically inclined sort of thing. But it's great that you seem to have an upswing in certain categories as well. It's very good to see. So you're asking essentially for, is it 2,500 or 2,000?
It's 2,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, counselors, questions? So the first 2 weeks of March, everybody could be busy going around to these various performances too.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you and your group again for coming to tell us about this. And as explained before, in another couple of weeks, next council or so, we'll probably be getting back to you as to how we might be able to help your cause.
Thank you very much.
So thank you all your presenters. Yes, indeed. Okay. And next up, we have the Council Remuneration Committee. And three gentlemen coming forward. Okay. And once again, if you wouldn't mind saying your name for the record and whoever's listening in out there.
Thank you, your worship. My name is Larry Hernick, and with me is Samuel Elkins and Brandon Dew. We have the honor of presenting the remuneration report of the policy committee regarding policy number P-11-66-B. The committee consisted of myself, Samuel Elkins and Brandon Dew. We met with the town administration over the last 3 months to review various other municipalities' remuneration policies, although not as many as presented in documents provided to council by the town administration. We discussed and reviewed the various provisions in the policy. The committee report, however, is the sole opinion of the committee and has not been approved or commented on by the town administration, and thus their opinion is not reflected in our comments. We will not read the report to you, and the agenda looks like it will be a long meeting, since you will note that the committee recommends that council meetings do not exceed 4 hours. The only comments I would like to put on the record tonight is the following. The committee found that the citizens of Peace River have been well served by council members and that their claims for expenditures and per diem have been more than reasonable. Council members are not serving on Peace River Council for earning income and are participating as council members for the benefit of the citizens of Peace River and not for themselves. That statement being put on the record, the committee presents the report to council and welcomes any questions or comments that you may have at this time. Thank you again, council, for your dedication and service to the citizens of the town of Peace River.
Thank you very much for your work in, well, serving on the committee and bringing forth the recommendations. This is the first time that the town of Peace River has looked at refreshing or updating its remuneration policy in this format. We are aware that certain other towns, municipalities do a public committee to make recommendations. And it's my understanding that the recommendations in this report, if accepted, would be the next council, the one that's elected in 2025, that this policy would possibly go into effect. And they would have to accept it and so on. But anyways, to my way of thinking, it was very thorough and well thought out. I'll start with one question though. The 4 hours, how did that come into the mindset?
We just took a look at, we took a look at the average of the council meetings. Of course, these are just recommendations from us. We don't know how long the in-camera sessions go. So, and we did look at other councils as well, who, some of them did have time limits set to how much pay you would be get per council meeting, that sort of thing. And it was purely just a budgetary aspect. Yeah.
I think our procedural bylaw says that if councils are meeting at 10:30, there needs to be a motion to go forward to carry on a little bit. So, but anyways, I'm just curious, councillors, do you have any questions at this moment for clarification? Deputy Mayor?
I'd like to know how you came up with the 5% or like $2 raise. I'm just curious. I'm pretty comfortable where we are now, and I just thought that was a kind of a large leap. So I kind of want to know where did that came from?
Sure. So Councillor Shannon, what we did was we looked across various different fields as far as senior management positions, different government officials. Some of the councils were paid $52.50 an hour. Some of them were paid $38. So we kind of just took an average based across the board of senior levels of, you know, administrative type of positions across the province. And we just came up with $45.
Did you take our budget or our financial state into consideration when you did that?
We did actually. And while we looked at it, we added up all the total hours that all the counselors had put in over the past couple of years, kind of did an average, and it makes a budget difference of about $2,800 per year of an increase. So on the whole, out of what is our budget, $25 million, something like that, $12 million worth of tax revenue, $2,800 was sort of a drop in the bucket. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's why we're limiting council meetings to 4 hours.
We would just have to maybe have another special council meeting sometimes. I don't know. Any, Councillor Good?
Just a comment, actually 2 comments. One, I really do appreciate your kind comments. But I think sort of more importantly than that, the process of going to a public committee to come up with a recommendation, I think is a really good process because it removes the politicization of it. It removes a lot of those issues. It's people are hands off from us making a decision and weighing in their minds some objective criteria. So my feeling, this is personal, I'm only speaking for myself on this one. Regardless of what the committee came up with, I was prepared to accept it on the face of it, because I think the process is correct. We ask a public group to come up with the recommendations, and we accept it. And my feeling is out of respect, I would personally, I would accept those recommendations as put forward regardless of what they were, under what circumstances they were. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate your work on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it's nice to have somebody at arm's length look at this, because it's kind of weird to look at your own pay. Although people do it all the time, but it's still kind of weird. Any further comments, councillors?
Similar to Dawn, I had the same opinion. It would seem kind of, I guess you would say disrespectful and given that the level of community involvement that you gentlemen have put in other regards, is something you just, kind of show up out of the woodworks and decide you're gonna do this. These are, you guys have been involved in the political in the community for a long time and very actively. So this, very well qualified and kind of thing. So much appreciated for your time and thank you very much.
Deputy Shannon?
I absolutely someone's got their.
Oh, sorry, that's us.
I understand and I totally, respect the time that I disagree with pay raise. I'll put that out there right in front. I agree with just about everything else you guys, have come up with. And it's not out of disrespect that I say that. It is, just my own belief and again, my own opinion, just like the others have theirs. But that's where I sit on it. I agree with, the changes, but I can't, see that, maybe $1, but I cannot, no, I can't support that. Thank you.
If I may just comment on that. Yeah, we went back and forth quite a few times. And some of us were in disagreement, some of us were in agreement, and then we kind of settled on the $2 an hour. And we initially looked at the monthly salaries, which on the face value look quite low compared to other communities, right? But then you have to factor in the hourly pay that you're also getting paid for that. And then once we did that, Peace River was pretty much smack dab right in the middle, right? So, we kind of settled on, well, we'll give a little bit of a raise. And of course, it's totally up to you guys whether or not you choose to enact any of these recommendations or not. So this was just from the research that we had done.
I just wanted to make clear that there is no disrespect at all in disagreeing with that. And you know that.
Oh, yes, 100%. Thank you, Councillor Shannon.
Any further comments, Councillor Carr? No?
No.
Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen, very much, for your time and your attention to detail. Obviously, from the comments and the recommendations that you put forward, there was quite a bit of work involved, I would think. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, well, and at least you get into a different mindset, whatever this municipal council business is, sort of thing. So, it's always a learning curve, but thank you for your time and thank you for the recommendations and you'll sit on the next one too.
Thank you.
Who knows? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we do not have any unfinished business. New business, we have the preparation for the October 28th organizational meeting. And did I skip something? What did I skip? Oops, I skipped review of bylaws and policies. Mr. Mumford is going to talk about council remuneration, travel and expense policy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, after the council remuneration committee completed their recommendation, they brought forward their report for council's consideration. Administration at the time didn't want to enact the labor of putting all of those changes into the existing bylaw or policy rather to bring that back to council unless council wishes for us to put in that work. So really, this is an opportunity for council to direct administration as to if you would like us to return to you with a policy that has all, some, none. Again, it would be up to council as to direct.
Thank you. So, councillors, Mr. Mumford has asked us if we want to accept all the changes and they get written into a new policy and then brought back to us for, I guess, review at that time as well, or something else. Councillor Good?
What I'd recommend is, because I want to see a full discussion on it in public council and a regular council meeting. I'd like to see it brought back as kind of as it is. We know what recommendations changes, maybe put them off as options that are available and have that discussion at that time. Because now, I kind of get the feeling that if we discuss it and argue it here, we're basically, I call it distinction without a difference, we're making decisions here to be brought back for approval at a later date, but the decisions are effectively being made here. And I'd rather on an issue like this, that they be brought forth in full council. That's just my own personal opinion.
Other comments? Deputy Mayor?
Are you not just asking us for our, like a rough idea so that you know whether to bring the policy back as is or with somewhere? Like, I'm fine with it all except for the rate myself, if you wanted, if that's how you want to do it.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So again, we're looking for direction if you'd like us to take the recommendations as prepared by the committee and incorporate those into policy. So you're basically, you'd see a marked up version of the policy with all those changes in effect. If you want that to be the starting point for discussion, or if you want the existing policy to be the starting point for discussion.
Other viewpoints, Councillor Gooding?
Well, I think the only area where we're really having any discussion on, as far as I can see, is on the wage issue. So I think that's a simple decision that can be made, like bring all the other stuff. Don't we have a problem with any of the others? Incorporate all the rest, bring the wage discussion back to a full meeting. And then it can be decided, because as I said earlier, if they recommended a decrease, I would have said fine the decrease. If they recommend the increase, I'd find the increase, not because of what it is, but because of the process. Again, that's my view. So if you bring it back to the next council with all of the suggestions that the committee made, and we want to have a discussion on the yes or no on the increase, then we can have that. And council can make a decision. I don't think that really muddies the water at all for the work you have to do. Am I correct on that?
Yep.
I would say one of the other things, I would want a discussion on the 4 hours.
I was going to say that's going to happen.
Or
Would-
4 hours is what.
We'll end up having a special
meeting.
Well, would it be the same as the 10:30 rule, as just said, you would just enact it at 9 o'clock instead of 10:30? Because
So the 10:30 business is part of our procedural bylaw, is it not? Yeah, so it's that policy that kind of limits the meeting part of things. All of this can overlap, I guess. So what I'm hearing is that, yes, council would like to have admin bring this back with the recommendations within them. And likely there will be a discussion. Deputy Mayor wants to bring up the pay part of things. Mayor would like to talk about 4 hours. I don't know who else, but to start there, not start with the old policy and go through it, but start with this.
That makes sense.
So, any questions, any concerns that way? So we would need a motion that council direct administration to bring a revised council remuneration, travel and expense policy to a future meeting for further discussion based on the council remuneration committee's recommendations.
And council comments tonight.
Well, they're gonna be in there, and they're gonna talk about it anyhow, right? So, Mr. Medford, does that incorporate what we said?
Yep.
I can make that motion.
Okay, Deputy Mayor, so moves. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It is carried. Well, thanks once again, committee, and thanks, Mr. Medford and admin for future work on that one. Next up, I think, is unfinished business. We don't seem to have any new business, though. We have preparation for the October 28th organizational meeting. And Mrs. Miller?
Thank you, Richard. So as mentioned, October 28th is the organizational meeting of council. So included in your agenda package is a listing of all the current committee and board appointments for the past year. For Mayor Manz's consideration, if council would review the attached committees and put forward by October 21st to administration for us to submit their interest in the committees you'd like to serve on next year. And if you could preferentially indicate your preferred number one choice for her. Then as last organizational meeting, we will put forward the names of interest. If there is more than one of councillors interested in a particular appointment, we will do secret ballot. And similarly, we will do the selection for the appointment of deputy mayor as well. We'll be looking for nominations and then looking for acceptance. And if there's more than one party or councillor nominated, we would go to secret ballot for deputy mayor as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on that information? Okay, if no one has any objection then by October 21st, if you could have your lists into Ms. Parsons maybe, and myself, that would be great, and we can start tracking who would like to do what. So thank you. And maybe council would move that council accept the briefing note regarding the 2024 organizational meeting preparations for information. Councillor Carr moves. All those in favor? Opposed? It is carried. Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Bell, Lions Campground update. This has been an ongoing discussion and work in the background, I'm sure.
Feels like a saga.
Yes.
Unfortunately, fortunately. Council before you is a slight update with a further update that will be in closed session as per a number of FOIP sections that are noted in the report. CN has brought forward to the town of Peace River a long-term lease for the property that's adjacent to the town of Peace River property on 8700 100th Ave. This area is formerly known as the Lions Campground. In general summary, the lease arrangement that CN has provided to administration for review is provided in the report. It is a larger portion of the property than previously leased, approximately double the size. The lease term is 50 years. The lease fee is laid out as $170,000 in year one and a $1 a year term for every subsequent year after the first year. It has a lease to own option within the lease document. And in addition, as per our previous discussions with our prior opportunities for conversation with CN, we had legal involved as we have done so with this particular lease agreement. And we will be providing council with a little more detail and recommendations on that advice within the closed session item.
Well, with that, there's silence. And maybe there should be after this saga. So councilors, any questions at this point?
No.
No. Hard to have a question if we're not quite sure about the other part of things.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe someone would move that council table the Lions Campground CN lease discussion to the closed session portion of the meeting to receive additional information subject to FOIP section 24, advice from officials, section 25, disclosure harmful to economic and other interests of the public body, and section 27, privileged information.
So moved.
Good, so moves. All those in favor? Opposed, it is carried. Thank you, Mrs. Bell. And now, Riverbank maintenance request.
Yes, thank you. The next item is a request for direction for council in regards to a letter or an email request that was received by the Peace River Boating Association. The request is a one that's fairly unusual in its scope. It's quite a large scope of a request. They are asking to do mulching or vegetation removal, whatever tools may be used, from approximately the Heart River Bridge traveling north to the North End Boat Launch. So administration made an initial inquiry with the Boating Association to garner a little bit more information as the proposal presented was unclear of whether the organization was funding the project, were they doing the work, were they looking just for approval from the town, what was the formal request. We have received a little bit more clarity. We haven't done a deep dive into this because once we started looking into this particular request, it's actually quite substantive in a number of different facets. The response back we received from the Boating Association is that they are willing to conduct the work. They are looking for business participation, in-kind donations, whatever that might format that might look like. They're asking also for a financial contribution from the town and or in kind or whatever the town could provide. Obviously, they require the town's direction and approval for whatever is proceeding with this particular request. But they also relayed a vision of having a dike system that had similar to Riverfront Park, sort of a grass slope. So receiving the initial information and further subsequent information to this request, administration started to process this a little bit. And to be very upfront, this is outside of our scope. Yes, we have identified that sections of what previously would have been perceived as provincial property may be town property. But as soon as we start doing work with adjacent to a waterway in any format, then environmental regulations take precedence over ownership. And what we own and what we can do on that property becomes much more complex. This is out of my scope of knowledge and experience, and it's also, and I would refer to our engineer, but it's not here this evening, outside of the scope of our engineer. We would have to, he has experience in this area, but this is definitely capacity-wise, by no means is an area, is something he could even look at, even really getting involved in. We would have to look at engaging an environmental contractor, consultant that would have much more experience in this area. But in saying all that, we're looking for a little direction from council, actually for a lot of direction from council. What of this request that has been brought forward is intriguing to you as a council? Is it the portion around encampments? Is it the grassy slope? Are we looking for viewing points off the dike? Are we not? This is a substantive request that has an impact across your community. The users are all 6,777 individuals, families, seniors, children that utilize that existing space for recreational purposes. I've had comments that a lot of folks love the trees and the shrubs and the greenery, not when they're imposing onto the trail, granted, and we are working on improving our maintenance levels. People pick the choke cherries and other berry type items that are along there also. So we're just looking for some clarity of what sort of outcome are we looking for out of this request, because the intended consequences of one group's request can have very substantive impact on the rest of your community. So we ask that you consider some of those consequences and intended outcomes and provide us with a little clear direction so we can go forth and do a little bit more work and see what impacts or opportunities there could be. And there's possible other avenues to achieve those outcomes.
Yeah. Like one of the things I'll throw off the topic is we've talked about the trail system and how the maintenance of the trail system becomes rather a large operational element. And to me, that question would pertain to doing something along the riverbank. The maintenance after a while, like it would be a consideration. I've been to some beautiful rivers in Europe where it's nicely manicured and whatever, but I don't know how their maintenance works either. So maintenance would be one thing I would want investigated, I guess. But, Mr. Scanlon,
Sure. I do like the idea of increasing sightlines. I'm not sure about trying to maintain a full-on green grassy slope. I know a lot of what grows along the bank is like willows and that kind of thing, and they're very, prolific. And so, it would seem from time to time, if they got, cut back a bit, they'd have no problem reestablishing themselves. I don't know that I would agree with, the idea of mulching them right out of the ground, and I guess you'd say killing them. Just kind of trimming in areas like, so for example, some areas along where the races were going on, you can't see all that well in a lot of it, but opening some of it up, I think would be nice to give a view of the river, particularly around, well, I'd like to, have a frozen lemonade at the board and barrel, and the weeds get a little tall there, that might be one place where I'd be really happy to have some trees cut back, that kind of thing as well. And there's also the integrity of the bank and keeping the root system alive while trimming the trees down quite substantially, I think is very possible, but that's what I think. That's not what somebody who gets to make that decision from, say, the appropriate level of government or department might believe either, so.
any other comments? Councillor Carr, Councillor Good?
I think it's a great idea. I like the whole idea, but I don't think they're talking about tilling up the roots. I think they're talking about mulching it.
Just cutting it off.
Yeah, just cutting it off.
See, okay.
I 100% agree with you on the grass. I don't see how that would ever work unless we did mulch or till it up and so on. And by doing that, we're going to damage the integrity of the whole dike system. I think leaving the roots there, and I'm not an environmental engineer, but if the roots are there, the willows will continue to grow. So it would maintenance, it would be a case of coming down and cutting them down every couple of years or something I would expect. I like the idea of the clear view to the river, because right now it's very sporadic where you can see the river, and I think that's a big part of what the dike system was put in for. I also like the idea of maybe eliminating the potential encampments along the river. If they don't have a place to hide, they're not going to want to set up down there. And granted, it's going to move them away from the river to other areas, but at the same time, it's going to keep our dike system safe.
No, it's yours.
I was really kind of excited when I saw this letter. One of the things that's sort of been a repeating theme in Peace River is how do you get to the river? Like, I've asked people who would come here as tourists, and I said, just for fun, tell me you want to put your foot in the river, and I'm not going to tell you how to do it. You want to put your foot in the Peace River, tell me how to do it. Well, where do I go? Well, I'm not going to tell you. I want you come here. It's called Peace River. We don't have a hotel that can see the river. We don't have restaurants that can see the river. We don't have a lot of things that can see the river. We've kind of, in a lot of ways, other than the boat launch and our park, the river is kind of there if you're high enough to take a look at it, but it's not really visible from anywhere else. And I don't think we're capitalizing on it, especially for a town that's called Peace River. It's kind of integral to who we are and why we're here. So I was really happy to see this. I kind of agree with increasing a lot of the sightlines, but not maybe to the extent that some do. And the reason for that is these are also habitat for other things other than us. The trees that are there are habitat for other critters, life forms, whatever. So I think there has to be some consideration of that. But managing it properly, I think, is something that has a lot of promise for the benefit of the town. One of the ideas that I thought of when I was reading this is we don't get a lot of times where the public can have a real say in what they want to see a town look like. And maybe there's an opportunity here to put a poll out or something and saying, here's a map, where would you like to see clear? Where would you like to see sight lines? When the races are on, where do you want to be able to sit to see them? That kind of consideration, and what other things would you want us to consider? I think we have an opportunity here to involve the town in that decision. I'd like to see that.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, any comments?
I agree with what everyone said. I agree with what Don is saying. Now is our chance to actually get some feedback on what they want that river district to look like. I've always called it the river district because I still have intentions of that being developed down there. So I think that would just be a perfect add-on value added for that area.
So the question from admin was, on the direction of council, administration will pivot from current priorities to further investigate and provide a full report for consideration or future council meeting. So what current priorities might be put aside in order to deal with this one?
It's a good question because this is a significantly large project and not just for the area that's been identified for this particular request. Anything that we do in that area has to have thoughtful process and justification. And because inevitably other areas of the community then will receive a similar request. So again, we would need to hire an environmental consultant to come in and assist us with the entire riverbank system so that we're putting in place good decision-making based on sound judgment and not just a want for a look and feel per se, because there are impacts. That entire riparian zone between not your dike system, that's separate, to the water's edge, that's a riparian area and is very important for the integrity of the rest of your bank system. There's good reasons to have it. There's all sorts of good documentation that's been done by the provincial government around the importance of riparian zones on river and lake edges, because it helps to maintain wildlife, your integrity of your dike systems and your waterway systems. There are filtration for water and so forth. There's all sorts of good environmental reasons. But there's lots of ways to manage that to allow access for viewing points and better general access to the river. And again, that's outside of our scope of knowledge and expertise. So we'd have to look at hiring a consultant, and I'm not, I don't have any concept at this point of what that would even cost us and exactly what the scope of work would be. So I would recommend this is a 2025 budget conversation that we would add into a budget project, and we would look towards 2025 for prioritization within work plans.
Thank you. Councilor Scammon?
Well, I think the other thing we could think about as well is the timeline here. I mean, if it's like, we want to get this done in 3 months, I don't believe that is, or even a year. I think this is something that would be sort of a long-term plan vision over a number of seasons, over a number of years before, someone just jumps on a mulcher and starts, laying bark around, right? So,
Yeah.
so kind of to what Councillor Good was saying, with going through that whole process, whatever, what do we want the river to look like? And I don't mean the 5 of us today even, but, the community over the long term.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would obviously still need some reprioritizing of some tasks and that kind of thing, but not like, well, I was working on this and now I'm gonna drop it and do this now. I don't believe that would be even wise.
If you're looking for an immediate action of any sort, it would be, we're not working on this and we're focusing on this. If you're looking for a longer term, larger picture plan as suggested by Councillor Scamahorn, then again, that could be worked in future budgets and that bigger picture planning could be done. It's just staking out and assessing the trees and what to keep and not to keep. Our parks lead, who has the qualifications to do that, has spent the last 2.5 months, has not done any fence parks or playgrounds just all the trees that are just on boulevards or in green space. And she's logged 458 trees, I believe. And that took her over 2 months to do, in amongst other activities. She's out trimming elms right now. So it can be done. These things just take time and effort and a plan.
Counselor Good?
Well, maybe just a suggestion, get the public input first to know where they want to go. That's not an expensive thing to do. That could be an online poll or, and some advertising. Get that sort of as your basic, then you have to, the questions that are going to come up to a degree are, okay, now we've decided we would like this area clear. One, can we do it without messing up the river?
Yeah.
Is Fisheries and Oceans or whoever, I don't know who handles the river,
Everybody.
waterways, your agency.
Yeah.
Whoever's responsible, are they okay with that? Or are they gonna say, well, yeah, no? You know what I'm saying? So, because we've had that in the past, we've come up with ideas and the answer, that's a great idea, no. So I think we need to get what the public wants and then the feasibility of it in terms of whoever manages the river, and then go from there and say, okay, now we've got to hire our person to take a look at how do we accomplish within the parameters of what our people want and what the controlling organizations will allow, and also budget what can we accomplish within what amount of time. But I really like the fact that this discussion is now on the books, in the public viewpoint, and is on the table for discussion. And I think it's going to be a really good one.
Okay, so would anybody have any objection if we were to recommend public engagement on this topic?
We'll make a motion if you want.
So
Your worship, if you would just allow administration to process that a little bit more, only because I do feel like we may need to engage a consultant earlier than the public engagement, because there are areas that we know the more riparian, the better it is for our banks, where we don't have dike systems, and that is very critical information, as opposed to going to the public and saying, everyone wants the south end cut down, and we're saying absolutely not. We could set everyone up for a very
That's fair.
not productive consultation
Yeah,
process.
that's fair.
So how would we word something about this?
Bring us back some wording for the council meeting.
Sure.
And maybe just say a future meeting and give you some time.
I believe it's,
It's part.
Oh, sorry, Ms. Parsons?
I had just put that maybe we move to direct administration to bring forward this riverbank maintenance request during 2025 budget discussions. Because if we need to hire a consultant and do all of that, that just might have to be a price tag that's included in the 2025 budget before we do the public engagement, and that could, all of that could kind of be tied into those discussions. And then if we did need to if out of those discussions, something came up that we could bring it forward earlier, we could. But at this point, the 2025 discussions are ongoing, so we could kind of tie it in there.
they're in November,
Yeah.
like they're literally 3 weeks away, 4 weeks away, yeah.
Is that?
Okay, so would anybody have any objection to the idea brought forth by Ms. Parsons?
Only if
Okay,
the
so,
rest of admin thinks it's possible to tag it in.
so Ms. Parsons, if you wouldn't mind reading that proposed motion, and we'll see.
That council direct administration to bring forward this riverbank maintenance request during the 2025 budget discussion.
Great. Would someone like to make them?
Yeah, I'll make them.
Councillor Scanlon so moves. Okay, any further discussion, clarification? All those in favor of the motion? Vote, it is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dell, and good idea. Okay, we're on to reports, and first report is the Apex Security second month report unaudited. And we have that in front of us. Were there any questions someone would like to bring forth? Any comments? To me, it was pretty much, I thought, as the first month had gone by, the second month had gone by. Encampments are still being looked at and categorized depending on what's happening there. Weather's getting colder, so it'll be interesting if there's changing activities because, well, attributed to that, I don't know. Okay, so any further questions on that one?
Yeah, it could mean people relocate, it could mean people
Yeah.
go indoors more.
Could mean a whole bunch of things.
More maybe interactions indoors with businesses or whatever.
Okay, we're still hearing positive comments from the public, which is great. Next up, we have the development building activities of note monthly report for September, I guess. I note in here that the first item deals with the West Hill development, and it seems to me there's a few less bullets here than there was on the last report. I'm not sure, so maybe things are moving ahead a little bit there. That's the No Frills development, and there was a two-story addition to an industrial building, and information about building permits and development permits and bylaw amendment applications and how that works. So councillors, Councillor Good?
Yeah, so one thing is, it's more general to development, but this is a good place because we're discussing development. We have, one of the things that was done a couple of years back, which I found very useful, was a kind of a tracking of how many development permits are asked for and the time frame from a percentage of permits that have been requested, what's the overall time frame that they take? Because I know that there are some that come, that you ask for X and you get X pretty quickly within a week or two kind of thing, and there are some that take longer for whatever reason, but it would be interesting to get a kind of an examination over the last 4 or 5 years, or 3 years, or 2 years, pick your number. Sorry about that, Kayla, I saw that. Last 6 months. But a sort of an idea of a graphing of what the time frame is from application to either approval date or denial date or whatever, just so we can get an idea of the scope, of how they're being handled.
CEO Miller?
Memory serves me
I don't need it for next
correctly. I believe if memory serves me right, that has started to be a piece of information included in infrastructure and development's quarterly report. I remember something about the average number of days of development permit took in the last quarter. So if I'm incorrect, I'll make sure it's in there.
I thought I saw something about building permits and with 5 days kind of.
Yeah, it was in there.
So it might be already included, but
It's a new
we'll look for it.
addition piece.
Yeah. Thank you. Any further comments on this one? Okay, good to see. And next up, we have the April 17th Northern Lakes Community College Community and Education meeting minutes. So I attend this one, and basically I wanted to bring to your attention, it's kind of not exactly in these minutes because they're one older than when our current meeting. Anyways, the province and maybe the federal government had something to do with this too, but anyways, over the summer, they cut a grant that the colleges were getting. They cut it by 50%, and it was for college upgrading programs. So they would take students who were anywhere from, say, grade 4 level and try and get them up to grade 12 level. What it did was provide funding for those students essentially to attend courses. So in many cases, it's a single mother with children working a job and working 2 or 3 jobs. If she had this, then she can at least attend some courses and get rid of one job, so she got the time. Anyways, they cut that by 50%. So in Northern Lakes College, that meant that 3 staff were laid off at the end of August, and case they're off for that aspect to the program. Very unfortunate, because you think of all of the rhetoric we get about let's have more people into the trades and so on and so on. And yet this is a category of people where with some upgrading, perhaps that's where they would end up. But any questions for me of this CEC report? Seeing none, onwards to the Peace River Aboriginal Committee meeting. This is again last June where we were heavily involved with the powwow and stuff like that. Since then, we've had a Sisters in Spirit Walk. We've had the September 30th Truth and Reconciliation Day. And we're onwards to that sort of thing. But anyways, questions, comments? Okay, somebody else gonna take this one, maybe Deputy Mayor, the minutes of the Regional Economic Energy Committee, I should say.
Okay, that one I
Was that the one?
I attended by virtual.
Right. So essentially though, we had at that point asked councils, the 5 municipalities that are participating, for $2,000 to help with some expenses, including working towards a communication type plan. We had another meeting August 1st, and this one, we had a guest group. They were called, they're a group that hosts nuclear host communities in Canada. And if our group eventually becomes part of them, then we can get some help with some expertise should we need it for anything that we want to step forth and question. On the other aspect of thing, Alberta Energy is proceeding with the Alberta government. The Alberta government is looking at an RFP process to basically try to get Alberta Energy or others into the nuclear business, as I understand it. Deputy Mayor, is that kind of your, yeah? Yeah, any questions on that one? Okay, next up, the Community Rail Advocacy Alliance. I sit on this one. This is made up of, I don't know, 30 or so municipalities in northwestern Alberta. Our main focus for this report was when there was going to be a rail strike, well, partial rail strike, and how that was affecting our communities here with respect to transportation, both goods in and goods out. Next up, we're dealing with the rail, not so much the ports, but the ports are part of that whole transportation network that affects our commodities in this area of the province a great deal. Any questions on that one? Okay.
Can I ask?
Yes,
Is there still a shortage of rail cars in the north?
yes, as I understand it.
There is.
Yeah. They're not exactly dependable. So they might be ordered, but might not turn up, might not get moved, that kind of stuff. There is a concern about the rail line from Enterprise to Hay River. I think I maybe mentioned this before. During the fires, it got destroyed or partly destroyed. CN is thinking that they should just sell it off rather than use maybe their insurance monies to replace it and then sell it off so somebody actually would buy it. But it's another transportation aspect that's important for communities in Northwest Territories. And CN is in charge of it. Okay, next up, PREDA, Peace Regional Economic Development Alliance. This one was kind of interesting. Well, they're all interesting, but anyways, this one was on different themes, and one was regional sharing and partnerships. One of the topics, content experts for hire. So we had a presentation from the County of Grand Prairie and whether or not they might be able to offer safety code services to others in the region within a reasonable driving distance. So the other one, property tax assessment, County of Northern Sunrise presented their assessors again. Could maybe be offered agreements. They don't bid on contracts, so it's agreements to do assessments for other municipalities. Mackenzie Municipal Planning Services Agency presented as well. And they outlined some of their services. They indicated that they finally have 3 planners on staff, very new planners, some of them, one works from Vancouver. Anyways, they had, a capacity would be a discussion item if they were to take on more work. And that was true for all of those ones. There was regional infrastructure, Will Stewart, he presented on, well, he led the discussion on, infrastructure that's sometimes shared by, municipalities, be it, medical clinics, fire stations, landfills, water treatment plants, that sort of thing. Another topic, external partnerships. Jasmine Light from Northern Lakes College chaired that one, and she was talking about the group, kind of brought forth, post-secondary advisories, school board committees, community futures, sometimes industry, Pacific boards, watersheds that, municipalities share, reps and presentations on. Municipal staffing came up as well. Basically, issues around hiring all sorts of municipal personnel. It's a challenge to build a team, but it's hard to deliver the services of the municipality if you don't always have that full team in front of you. Ken Hildebrandt talked about licensing of capital assets, so fleets and so on. And the last one was kind of a different sort. Village of Rycroft, Joe Shellick, led the discussion, and main focus on that one was councillor representation on nonprofit boards. And some municipalities don't assign representatives to nonprofit boards, others do. The ones that do, there was a discussion that basically they felt that they were getting overwhelmed. Nonprofit boards tend to be ones that are operational, and so they're become part of the fundraising aspect of that, which sometimes is a little bit of a, okay, am I a council person here now, or am I the fundraiser part? Like sometimes a little conflict. So it was quite an interesting discussion, and lots of input from different municipalities. Get any questions on PREDA?
That's a long.
Yes, it was a big day. Talk about 4 hours. That one, gentlemen, was about 9. I don't know, we can't limit them, I guess. Anyways, Economic Development Committee, Deputy Mayor, things you want to say about this one?
We've covered the job fair, discussed what we were gonna do for Small Business Week. Talked about the film industry again. Just a note, I'll be down south at the end of the month, and I just got invited to a private film screening at the Banff Films Festival. So I will make sure that Peace River gets noticed for sure down there when I'm at that. So that was kind of a nice little piece of news. Other than that, we're just planning for Christmas and Small Business Week and things like that.
Great. Okay, and then next up, or does anybody have questions on that one? Next up, the RCMP Regional Peace Regional Advisory Committee. Councillor Ford sits on this one. He's not here, but if you've had a chance to review it, is there any question you want to bring forth? I noticed that it says the CAC can look into avenues for fundraising in the north, also grant opportunities. It says soaring grants are available for youth involved initiatives. I'm not sure what that is, but it looks like they might be looking at grants of some sort. Okay, any, Councilor Good?
Now, this might be a place to ask a question that sort of come on my mind the last little while with the RCMP, which is over the last period of time, there's been a question of what kind of we pay X amount of dollars for the RCMP, we're supposed to have X amount of people. And those X amount of people are supposed to be available to provide services from the RCMP to the community for the amount of dollars we're paying. And I'd like to have a kind of an overview of the last while, sort of similar to the other question of how many RCMP have we had available to us at, in each month, and how many people have been, if we're supposed to have 10, do we have 10? If we're supposed to have 12, do we have 12? I'm not even sure quite what the numbers are, but taking into consideration leaves and everything else that goes on, my understanding is that a lot of times we have not had a full complement of RCMP in our community. And we're having concerns from people talking about the homelessness and all these other issues. And a lot of people say, well, why don't you just get some more RCMP? Well, that's fine. If we're getting the RCMP we're paying for, then maybe we should get more to make up the difference. But if we're not getting the RCMP we pay for, maybe we should getting the RCMP to get us the RCMP we're paying for. Or take a look at the numbers, because there's something that just doesn't seem right here. And when I see things like, I understand tenting is a concern. I understand all different kinds of things that people get stopped for are a concern. But community safety is a concern. One is concern for the police officer. The other is a concern for the citizens in our town that are paying the 2 point some odd million a year to have a safe community. And we have, one of the reasons we went with extra support for in community safety is because people weren't feeling safe. Let's talk about it straight like it is. If the community's not feeling safe, I think it's up to us to do something about that. But something about that also means calling the people that are supposed to be providing the service. Are you providing the level of service that you're supposed to be providing? I support the RCMP. They've got a heck of a job. It's a tough one. But out of the 12 that we're supposed to have, how much of their time is being spent out of the Peace River community? So they're not available to us when we're paying the lion's share of the dollars in this. Which there's other questions that come up about funding, equity, everything else. But I really do want to have some information on that as we go forward, because if we're going to be trying to figure out ways to manage the concerns we have around community security, I think we need the answers to those questions. And those answers should be clear, and they should be able to give them to us.
So you would perhaps like to direct administration to prepare a briefing note that answers which questions clearly?
Level of service in terms of number of officers to the complement we're supposed to have on staff at any one time. And also amount of time spent within community, within Peace River. And I understand the province has a funding model that says the guys around us don't pay as much as we do. I get all that. But you shouldn't be able to pay 10% and get 50%. It just seems to me that on the face of it, that's not equitable.
So you got two questions then?
Yeah, that's just the minimum of two. If there's any others anybody wants to add, those would be the two to start that I'd like to see.
Does admin understand the two questions? Yeah, okay. Any other questions that might be added on to this?
Maybe look into the feasibility of if we are paying for X number of police officers for the town of Peace River. The feasibility of continuing with the regional policing model or with assigning the police officers that we pay for to remain within the town limits of Peace River.
And one more. One more. The fees, if we're going to be setting priorities of where we want the RCMP to be spending our time, which I think is within our purview to do to some extent, to set what we see as the policing priorities of the RCMP that we have, maybe we're going to have to get really serious about thinking about what priorities we're going to say. These are your priorities. Well, we have these. We have these. And have a right open discussion on what priorities are going to be done. I mean, everybody has their priorities and sure, they have to do the highways, they have to do speeding, they have to do that kind of stuff, but we're talking about community safety. Some of those other ones I think shouldn't be the top of the list.
Okay, I'll wait for Ms. Parsons to read back what she has as the question for Mr. Good to put into a motion to request admin to bring forth a briefing note on. Maybe microphone too.
Oh, sorry. That's okay. So that council direct administration to bring forward a report regarding number of RCMP positions filled versus how many we paid for, amount of time officers spend within Peace River, the feasibility of moving to a town of Peace River service only, and setting priorities of where we want to see RCMP spending their time.
That's good.
What time frame are we looking at here? Like over the past?
Another year.
6 months? That makes sense? It needs to make sense, like,
I
it's not
think you might have to do a year.
a
I
year,
think you'd have to do a year.
okay. In the past year. Okay, does everyone understand the motion,
Yeah.
questions therein?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Good has made this motion, thank you. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed, it is carried. Thank you, and thank Ms. Parsons for putting that together for us there. Okay, one last report. This is from the Northern Alberta Advocacy Bureau, NTAB. I attend this as well. We had different presentations this time. Will Stewart again, though, on regional airports. The group has done a study of regional airports. Might be good to know that most of them are losing money. So, but anyways, the province is also studying airports, as many provincial services are dependent upon access to airports. So you think forestry, fire, RCMP, air ambulance, and STARS all have operations that are dependent upon having an access to a working airport. So that might be something that causes the province to help the cause a bit on some things. We had another presentation on the Prince Rupert Economic Corridor Forum. The province has given, it's announced a $250,000 grant to the Prince Rupert Port Authority to coordinate with the Industrial Heartland to British Columbia Corridor Forum. So from the Heartland, I forget what is the main town. Anyways, Industrial Heartland of Alberta, somehow a corridor of some sort for transportation, be it train or whatever, to make that port easily accessible for our goods, because it saves 2 or 3 days at least in transporting things to, I don't know, Japan, China, down that way. So they're wanting the port to be cooperative and see how this can work out. CN Rail did present on its grain plan, so your question about the cars and whatnot is pertinent to that as well. And basically, yes, there's problems getting cars to farmers, to forestry, to wherever in our area anyhow. Yes. Any further questions on the NTAB report? Well, thank you all for your patience there, and maybe someone will move that council accept items 10.1 and whoops, I'm the wrong one. Items 9.1 through 9.10 for information. Councillor Carso moves. Thank you. All those in favor?
And I gotta say, all those meetings and reports that you were responsible for, good work over the last little while. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Whether they're 4 hours or not. Anyways, you always learn things at these different meetings, you know, and I think.
Thanks for staying, guys. It's been great.
We'll try to keep.
Well, and hopefully it's in the best interest of the town. That's why we attend these things, because otherwise why bother attending sometimes? Anyways, thank you. So next up, we have the council communication package of September 20th. Maybe not so much there. Okay, we'll leave that one. Of note, council communication package of October 4th did come out on Friday, and several interesting things there, including some new businesses. So good for that. And I should mention that October 12th, the Peace River and County of Northern Lights Fire Departments are having an open house and pancake breakfast. So that's this coming Saturday before our next meeting, if anybody can go and attend, see what they're trying to fire up in more ways than one. I wanted to mention, and I don't know if I can do, well, I'm going to do it. Anyways, several of us attended the Alberta Munis Conference this past week or so. Anyways, one of the things that I found strange there was debates on a whole bunch of motions and whatever, but some of the motions are ones that are debated in the assembly, and then other motions are only debated in the assembly if there's time. Well, the one that we got to in the only if there's time was the one about whether what do you call it? Not landed immigrants.
Permanent residents.
Permanent residents should be able to vote in municipal elections. Now, it was one of the the longest debates, the back and forth that went into that debate that I've heard there in a long time. My question to the council is, should we maybe consider for another time to write a letter to AM saying, let's forget this part where only the executive debate certain topics, like that would have been debated by the executive. Who knows, it was defeated, narrow margin, but it was defeated in the assembly. I just think that maybe some of the things should be at the assembly, not just over there in the executive room. But anyways, if you could consider that, because I might bring that up in the future. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to say about communication packages?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. She keeps track of all of them. Okay, next up, very interesting document we have in front of us, the community update for 2023. I found it quite interesting. It's nicely put together. I think it's very readable and got some graphics, got some big numbers and little numbers and charts and everything. I would recommend everybody in the community to take a read. So it's like the annual report, okay? But it's called Community Update at this point in time. So administration, did you want to comment at all? Counselors, anybody? It's worth a read. There's a lot done in the last year, I thought.
I think, I would just like to say it's kind of a framework for us to, work towards. Now we have a communications team on site, and I think it was something the community used to issue, but we kind of fell on that for a couple of years. So now we've revived it, and we all know as a team that we need to contribute for next year, and so should be bigger, better, and more timely even next year. And it is on the website.
Yeah. So it's a good thing to look at. So on the website, they'd find it in the kind of main section somehow.
I think it's under reports, but I actually just emailed Stuart this morning and said we need to do some messaging out. They were kind of holding it to launch at the same time with the website. And now we just need to get some messaging out that it's out there and go looking for it. And so you should see something soon.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Any further comments on this? Good. Okay, then maybe someone would propose the council accept items 10.1 and 10.2 for information. Good, so Councillor Good, so moves. All those in favor? Opposed, it is carried. Thank you. Okay, key communication items. So help me out here, council.
Remuneration presentation, I think, is a big one.
Okay. Grants to organizations, presentations. Although we could save that one until the next time when the report is on. The medical one, Mass Co-op.
I also think the Lions Campground, because that's a really huge interest of the whole community, so I think that could be on.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the Apex presentation pointed out.
I did notice some online comments around people saying about the map or the information, and yes, it is available, of course, in our agenda, which anyone can go look at, but I think other people might be interested to see just how active the Apex is being, how many, encampments on the map they've had to deal with, look in, check in on, making sure they're not starting up again, clean up, all those other kind of things. To make that kind of more widely available. I think people think it's some sort of secret info, and it's turns out it's not available.
Anything else for key communication? Good to go then. Okay, thank you. And now we're at which section here? Oh, we're going into closed. So we will have a short 5-minute break. So we're back here at 7:18 and we'll be going into closed at that time.